that lot.
House is. That's where the
He owned that lot?
He owned the all square,
So why didn't he buy this house?
because he was crazy. He didn't want to. He wanted a factory, but not a house.
What does that mean, he wanted a factory? No, because usually a person who can't buy something can't buy
He
something.
didn't want to be
A landlord?
a landlord.
Uh-huh.
Because this was only a two-family house. Now
Right.
it's four.
Right.
So he figured if he has a tenant, they'll give him a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't like it.
But you rented this because it was next door to the factory?
Yeah, he wanted to be close to, on top of the factory because he didn't like to travel in the morning.
Yeah.
He used to get up 4 o'clock. You know.
Yeah. How did he land up with the factory next door? Why did he settle in Elizabeth?
When he dissolved the partnership with Uncle Harry.
I didn't know he was in Harry was in that business.
Sure, in New York.
What happened with that? I heard years ago
And then
that
they had
they
a
threatened to
problem.
unionize. What was
They had a
this?
problem, they couldn't get along, because he would try to be the boss. Your Uncle Ed didn't like boss. But anyway, they had trouble there because what do you call it? She's taking what I'm saying?
When they first
Is
came...
that important?
No, because I want to understand. I never realized this before. I didn't know Harry was in the business. I thought it was Abe's business.
Harry was in the business before Abe came to America.
So Harry took Abe into the business.
He brought him, he took him in. Harry was outside and he was inside. Abe was inside.
Yeah, I couldn't see Abe being salesman.
So when Eva came into the business, there was a lot of problems. She tried to be bossy and Abe didn't like it.
So why did
Then
Harry...
Abe, they dissolved partnership. Abe opened a place in New York on 2nd Street, right across the street where your grandmother used to live.
Mhm.
It was a store-like, and they had a building in the back.
Did he buy it or he owned it or he rented it?
No, he rented.
Uh-huh.
And then they started having problem with the unions. They wanted to organize, and they didn't want to organize.
What year was that?
What year? 1934. Came here I moved here in 1934. When I was in the hospital giving birth to your father, Papa moved out overnight without saying anything.
Out of the house in
No.
No, at the
He
factory.
moved out of the factory. They wanted to unionize the factory, and he was so angry. Overnight, he closed the whole
Overnight.
place down and moved out.
Closed
I never
it,
found
right?
That was
He
a
closed the
factory.
factory, yeah. But
Yes,
what was
he
the
would
factory
close
originally?
It was an umbrella
Your
factory.
grandfather came up and arranged me the keys to the place. I says, what's this? He says, they moved. He says, they moved. He says, he moved overnight. He moved here. He never said anything. I was in the hospital.
And that's when he moved here?
No. He moved to a place where the railroad is.
Uh-huh.
There's a building there. Then I don't know, Harry had problems. Harry was still in New York. But I don't know, he had problems, then they decided to go back together again.
Uh-huh.
So
So that's
then Tiva came in again here, and Abe didn't like the idea, so it was a big building here, as big as this apartment.
yeah, it was enormous. I remember that.
And he bought the building for a little nothing, and all the ground, it's all square block.
Mhm.
All these, how many apartment houses out there are here? 4, I think,
All from that land.
all from the land.
Hmm.
And he came down, but he didn't like to travel, a couple of blocks away. So I kept moving till I couldn't get any closer. Till I put my clothesline on the building. Connected. I did.
Is that true?
Yeah, if he needed something, we put it in a bed and we put it on the clothesline.
And you sent it over to the
And
building?
that's how we transferred it.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the story.
now wait, will you go back now
Where?
to Ms. Rich?
All right.
All right.
Not
then.
Schnell.
All right. No, I just want to, tell me about Ms. Rich.
What do you want to
What do
know?
you want to know? Tell
You have notes. What do you want?
when were you born?
I was born my chosen date is 1912, but I must have been born in 1913. Because in the streets you do not have birth certificates
Right.
when I was born anyway. I was delivered by a lady, she must have been about 90 years old, a midwife.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
Did you know this lady later on?
Oh,
or-
sure, I knew her.
Oh my God.
So,
I mean, when I got older, she was still around, and she was blind.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. And everybody, she delivered all the children, all the,
wait, she was blind when you came
Because
to know
that
her
was-
later? Or
Huh?
when she was blind
When she delivered you?
delivered?
I don't know when, or before or after, I
It's
don't know.
amazing.
But she was a very old lady, she just, she was a midwife.
Hmm.
And that was her, she delivered all the babies. Because
So-
you didn't go to the hospital, you didn't have a doctor, and you just depended on her.
Mhm.
So,
How did the Jews in Mizrich earn a living?
how?
Yeah.
Wonderful. We
Yeah.
called Mizrich Little America because most of the women were married to the man, most of them were in this country. Because most of them left just before the First World War broke out, because they didn't want to serve in the army. So they all left. At that time, you didn't need affidavits, as long as you had the fare. You know, you can,
You could actually move to America without any.
no, you can come to America.
Hmm.
As long as you can pay the fare. I don't think it was, you had to have somebody to smuggle you in one.
Mhm.
It wasn't entirely legal. And that's how my father came,
Well, how old were you when your father came?
a year.
So you didn't remember your
I
father?
didn't know my father till I came here, 1926. I was 12 and a half. I didn't know my father. My mother was pregnant with my brother.
When he left. Did she want him to go or not want him to go?
Yeah, she did, she sent him,
She did.
because she was afraid he'll be killed during the war.
Did they stay in touch with each other while he?
You couldn't, because the war broke out right away.
Oh, so
You left in April and the war
That's right.
broke out, 1914.
Do you remember the war at all?
I remember towards the end. It was ended in 1918, I think. I was about 4 or 5 years old. I remember.
Yeah.
I
What do you
remember
remember?
planes coming over, not like we have now.
Mhm.
I remember bombs dropping. My mother walked in the street. She carried my brother, and she pulled me by the hand, and when the bomb fell, she dropped on the floor, on the ground, and she covered us with her body, as though if the bomb came down, we wouldn't be killed, only she. So you don't think.
Yeah.
But I remember, then it was occupied by the Russians. The Germans occupied after the Russians, but that was good, because they really liked the Jews. They used to kill the Polish. They didn't like the Polish. But the Jews, I remember my mother smuggled, she had to support the two children. She smuggled with a sack of potatoes, with a couple of pounds of sugar or flour, and she was caught in the woods, during the night. They walked in the swamps in the woods. And she was caught smuggling. And she was so young, she was so little, maybe she was 22 or 23. And she was very tiny, she was 5 feet, maybe she weighed 90 pounds, like I weigh now. So she was caught, and they said, "Why are you smuggling? You're so pretty." My mother was a beautiful, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
We got a picture. You want to show?
Well,
Yeah.
this was already older.
Where is the picture?
Yeah, it's
You want me to
here.
get it?
That's from
Yeah, I'd love to
Poland.
see it.
Yeah, that's from Poland. And she says, "I have 2 children. My husband isn't here," and they didn't believe her.
Oh, she was beautiful.
Well,
Can't
this
believe this is you. I never saw this photo before.
really?
Never.
I was 10 years old here. See, we weren't peasants. We were dressed
Yeah, you can
nice.
see the way you dress. That's a stunning dress.
That's right.
You always said your mother dressed you beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. We were the best dressed. If we were rich, we couldn't be dressed any better.
Yeah.
No, this was all by a fashion designer.
Really?
Oh, sure.
Huh.
She used, She used to go to Paris for fashions.
Your mother used to go to
No,
Paris?
No, the dress
no,
designer.
the dressmaker.
No, where did you buy the clothes? I
Huh?
mean, was there like a big department store or not a big department store like Macy's, of course.
There,
Maybe.
we had no stores.
No, they used to sell
No,
it.
but I know like some.
She'd go and copy, the dressmaker would go and copy.
No, the dressmaker, we used to buy the material, and she used to sew whatever, coats. My mother's dresses made. She used to sew everything, coats, dresses.
They said about Auntie Clara that she could go and look in the window of Bonwitz and
Yeah,
come
but I
home and
don't know.
copy it. Without ever having touched the fabric, she could copy it.
Well, she was a
She was,
dressmaker.
yeah, she was a dressmaker.
She worked for a famous dressmaker. She used to make the clothes for the actresses.
Auntie Clara?
Clara, no,
Oh.
she didn't. The woman that she worked for,
I see.
she made all the dresses for
Huh.
the actresses. That's how
Mm.
Clara got it.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't a dressmaker in the village. I don't think so. I don't know.
Did you know Clara in this village?
No, I didn't know the family.
You didn't know any of them? Did you know the Menashkas? Did you know the
We
names?
heard of them. My mother knew because your grandmother used to make underwear, sew underwear, brassieres and pants and slips.
Mhm.
We didn't have anything ready-made. Everything had to be made. So your grandmother used them. My mother used to have her things made. She knew it.
Lingerie.
Huh?
Lingerie.
Yeah, lingerie. Underwear. What's the difference?
It's funny.
But I didn't know. I heard of them, the Menashka. Everybody heard of the Menashkas.
So why did everybody hear of the Menashkas?
Because the grandfather's name was Menashe.
Right.
So they all originated from Menashe, so they called it from the Menashkas. Everybody in Europe originated from somebody.
Mhm.
See, my father was known from the Kravietskas. Their last name was Kravietsky. So he was from the Kravietskas. That was already,
Mhm.
honor.
Hmm.
My mother's side, we had a cousin, his name was Idel. A very devout, pious man, a brilliant man, a scholar, a Torah scholar.
Mhm.
And everybody who needed something or advice, they used to come to him and ask him questions. He would give dowries for the brides, for the poor brides, and people needed money, he used to lend them the money. So his name was Idel. And his mother's name was Finkelstein. So we call it, they ask you, who are you? I mean, who was your family? So we used to say, we come from Idel Finkelstein's. See, you made it all. So if you don't know who it was, then you have to ask, who is Idel Finkelstein? So my mother comes from the Finkelsteins, and my father comes from the Kravietskas.
Got it. So wait a minute, when your father left to come to America, did he used to send back money for your mother, or she
How
had to earn her?
could
No, so she had to earn her own living now.
First of all, during the war, you couldn't correspond.
Mm-hmm.
And when he came here, he was a young man, and he met up with other young men, and they were called to serve here in the army too. But they kept traveling from one state to another. They could never catch up with them.
That's very funny.
That's right. Until 1926, when he came back, I don't know where, California, wherever he came, and he had a brother in New York. He was also in the umbrella business.
Mm-hmm.
His name was Chaim Yossel. So then my mother's cousin was here, and they all started working on him. It's time already that you brought your wife and children over. So in 1926 we arrived.
What was she doing to support you in the meantime? Do you remember?
Well, during the war, she smuggled,
Yeah.
She was caught, and they didn't believe her that she had 2 children, because she was so young. She looked like a little girl herself. So she had to bring the children to the
The commandant.
to the headquarters. So she brought us there, and of course she came to, and they saw that she didn't lie. So she wasn't fined or anything, she wasn't punished. But I remember they had large loaves of black bread. Here you call it pumpernickel, but there it was the real, fresh baked. and they put fresh oil on it because we had a factory that manufactured the oil. I believe it was corn oil or something, and it smelled so good. And they gave us these bread, and they put the fresh oil on it, and then they put brown sugar on it. I'll never forget that. And they treated us very nice. And they said, go home, I'm not going to bother you. If you're Jewish, just raise a white handkerchief so we know we're not going to hurt you. But the Polish people, they killed them. It's sad. The Russians, they were nasty. They took some of the men that, they were in the Bund. What do you call a Bund?
The Bund is,
it's like an organization.
Yeah, it's like a...
Yeah,
like a labor organization.
Yeah. So they gathered all these young men together. They shaved their heads. They put reds on them, and they chained them, and they marched them through the streets. And one of them, my uncle was there, my mother's brother, because he was very active in that.
They hated the
So that's what they did to the Russians, not the Germans. Then the Germans came in and it's quiet.
So what did your mother do? What was she doing? She was smuggling?
After the Germans left and all, my mother was a very good cook. A cook and a baker. I don't know where she got it from. But my mother, she was a chef, not a cook. So she used to cook for the wealthy people. She was hired out, if somebody wanted a meal for company. And then she started working like inside, just as a cook. Not as a maid, but as a cook. Cook, baker, I don't know, your father should remember when she came here. She used to make things. If she wasn't, she was not a well woman. If she was well, we probably would have opened a restaurant here. But she wasn't well enough. Because her cooking and her baking, the strudels and the onion rolls and the hollies.
Did she teach you this?
No, I didn't know. She would never let me come in the kitchen.
Where did you learn how to cook?
Huh?
Where did you learn how to
You
cook?
learn. You have to learn. You learn.
Yeah.
How do you learn how to become somebody, something?
That's-
From experience. You try and you have an interest and you learn. Oh, I never.
Why wouldn't she let you in the kitchen then?
She wouldn't let.
No?
Well,
Was she ambitious for you? She must have been ambitious for you.
Well, she wanted us, because my mother was not, her mother died when she must have been very young, maybe 12 years or so. Several children were left, but she only had one sister. Was the sister older? Was my mother older? Not too much different. And her father remarried with a lady who didn't have children. It just happened like with Hafege in there. So the first year she bore a daughter. So she chased all the other children out of the house. And the father didn't say anything. So my mother was taken in by an older brother. And all the children were scattered with different families. They didn't have a home. And then my mother was hired out for somebody to help take care of children, like a nanny or. And that's what she did because she wasn't educated. The only thing she was taught how to pray. She could in the sitter, but no reading, no writing, nothing. And she wanted for us to not to be, she felt guilty. And she tried. We went to school. And then in school we went to the Jewish Volksschule. And then they didn't teach Polish there. I had a private teacher that I went to his house for Polish lessons. And then I had a rabbi There's an old man with a long red beard. He used to come to the house to teach us Hebrew, how to daven.
Well, you weren't learning that in the Yiddish Volksschule, that's for sure.
No. In the Volksschule we learned all the subjects, history, geography, science, all like you used to learn in this country, which you now, fortunately, you don't do anymore. So that's how I got my education. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to high school.
What happened when you came to America? What was that like? How old were you when you came to America?
About 12 and a half.
Uh-huh. So what was that
I
like
went
for
into
you?
the 6th grade.
Wasn't it shocking for you to get off a boat and be in a total?
Oh, we were sick on the boat. We were 2 weeks on the boat.
Yeah.
And we came in on February 22nd on Washington's birthday. They wouldn't allow us to come off until the following day, because it was a holiday. At that time you observed the holidays when it was on the right day. Now everything's changed. So we had to stay. But we had a terrible, terrible trip because the weather was bad.
Yeah, February is not a good time to take
Well,
a cruise.
First we went to Germany. We stopped at the port there in Hamburg. From there we went to England. In England we stopped in London. And then we had cousins there, which we didn't know we would stop there otherwise, because we stayed there 8 weeks. I mean 8 days.
Yes.
And we were in a beautiful hotel. And I slept in a bed, the beds, the metal one. What do you call them?
A
Bunk
bunk
beds?
Like the,
Cot?
no, the beds, it's not wood, it's made out of,
A Murphy bed? Comes from the wall? No. A bunk bed? No. What bed?
the metal beds. The beautiful old-fashioned.
Oh, a brass bed. The
A
brass.
tall bed with a canopy. I felt like a princess. I never saw a bed like that. It was just beautiful. And the food was so good. We stayed in a really nice hotel. But it was winter, and we tried to go sightseeing a little bit. But we didn't know our way, you know.
Yeah.
But all this was such a good experience.
Yeah.
And then when we got on the boat in England, then we had to stop in Halifax, Canada, to pick up or drop off people, I don't remember. So we had a trip all around the world. Then we came here to Castle Garden. Now it's not Castle Garden anymore.
And your father met you at the boat?
Of course.
Was that shocking for
You had
you?
to sign up, you had to sign for it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call this now? Not Castle Garden. What do you call when the immigrants come in? Barbie.
Ellis Island.
Yeah, Ellis
Yeah,
Island.
so,
We didn't call it Ellis Island then. We called it Castle Garden.
Why was that?
I don't know. Then we came off and we started, you just didn't get off like that. You had to be examined by a doctor.
right.
If you have no disease, excuse the expression, if you have no lice. So we were disinfected.
Wasn't somebody in your family sick? Or-
Yeah, my mother only had sight in one eye because she was sick during the war. She had
Diphtheria?
no.
Just
What did they have during the war? They had some kind of illness.
I don't know.
And she lost the sight of one eye. So when she was examined here, they hesitated to let her come in.
Hmm.
But then I know there must have been a Jewish doctor who felt sorry for her, and she saw with 2 young children, and she passed.
Do you remember what your impression was of being in
Huh?
that, of being checked out, that whole, coming?
What?
Yeah.
Of course I remember.
I know, but why don't you let us?
But what do you mean?
What did
what
it feel
was
like?
it
you said?
What it
coming
was like, it was embarrassing, it was humiliating. You had to undress completely.
Well, I mean, what was the area like? Like, what was the
It
building?
was area, it was a big, big room, and it was like a, I don't know what you would call it. It wasn't a, they didn't take you into a private room. No, it was just a, were you ever down at Ellis Island?
The
You've been
school.
back?
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I would
Well, now I understand that
that.
it's renovated,
amazing.
I don't know, but at that time it was terrible.
Did you sleep overnight in Ellis Island?
No.
Well, they have now in Ellis Island beds.
No,
Some
we
of
didn't
them-
sleep over.
No,
No, when we came in, we were examined. And then my father came, we were on a ferry boat, because he had a...
Did you have any pictures of your father? Do you know even what he looked like up until that point?
When?
When you met your father at Ellis Island, when he came to pick you up, did you have any idea what the man looked
No,
like?
we didn't have pictures.
It's amazing.
Well, my mother probably recognized him, but I didn't know him. My father was a very handsome man.
Yeah. Where is he?
Here's the picture. Oh, that wasn't
You don't think so,
different.
Bobby?
No, Lala looks more like your grandfather, your great-grandfather.
Like Red Mare?
Oh, sure.
I don't know.
In an English-speaking
Of
school?
course, American. What do you mean? PS15 is still there.
But how could you go into English? You didn't speak any English.
In 6 months, we had to learn how to speak. We didn't have these, what do you call the teachers now that they have?
Second language.
Bilingual.
Right.
Now, we had to learn. And if you didn't learn, you were punished.
What'd they do?
Well, me, I'll tell you, I was very lucky. Honest to God. I'm not bragging. But it seemed that everybody had respect for me, even as a child. I had a teacher, her name was Mrs. Isaacs. She wasn't Jewish, she was Irish, with red hair. And she was a tiny little one, but a temper that you wouldn't believe it. And one time, but she was a wonderful teacher.
Really?
You had to learn. If you didn't, the other children, she took advantage of the Americans. But we had a few, they used to call us the greenhorns. Now you call them immigrants. But when we came, we were greenhorns. So us, she didn't bother too much. Me, because she saw that I tried very hard. And I really, not that I'm bragging, but I really did because I wanted to learn. So once we had to pronounce English word, we were studying history. And she said, everybody has to pronounce Emancipation Proclamation. I'll never forget that. And me, I couldn't speak English. And I didn't know what the word even meant yet. So I always pray to God. I says, please God, now I need you, help me. When it came to me, it came out so nice and clear, Emancipation Proclamation. And many of the other kids made mistakes. So she says, you see the greenie? She pronounced it right, but not you. You should be ashamed. And she was screaming and yelling. But I had wonderful teachers. They really tried to help me in any way. So that's my story.
So when you graduated school?
No, then my father decided to move to Allentown, Pennsylvania when I was in my 7th year or 8th year, I don't remember. No, 8th.
I didn't know this.
Yeah.
I never heard this.
So, but
Why did he move to Allentown, Pennsylvania?
Yeah, because he did his work there, he did his peddling there.
He was a peddler.
Yeah. So we moved there. Of course, I didn't like it, and then I was put in the 8th grade there. And from there, I graduated.
And how did you end up back in New York?
Because my mother didn't like it there, and I guess, she was concerned with the children because there wasn't enough Jewishness, you couldn't, so we came back to New York.
So when did you start? You got a job when you came back to New
I
York?
got a job, I was 15, and of course I wanted to continue schooling, but we had a depression that time. My father couldn't make a living with his peddling business, and so I was lucky. I lived on 4th Street in Avenue B, and there was a store right on the corner, general merchandise, ladies, men's, children's. So there was an old couple there. They had no children. So I went in there and I said, I live around the corner, I need a job. I'll work for nothing. Just please give me the job and I'll show you. If you like what I do, you'll pay me. If not, you'll send me going. Well, they, as young as I was, I mean, I wasn't, I don't know, God must have given me something. And that's the way I worked there for a little while.
What'd you
couple
do
of
there?
weeks. Selling.
You sold?
Everything. Sweeping the floor, selling. We did everything.
Yeah.
You know, we wasn't now. There was no, this is your job and that's it. Forget it. We had to do what we had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was hired, and I started with $12 a week. But I had to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, because at that time the stores used to be open until 1 o'clock in the morning. But it was a beautiful experience. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it. Because we came in contact with all these different kinds of people. It's just, I would never would I ever come in contact with these people. We had the mafia. We had the police department. We had the fire department. We had the sugar daddies who used to come with the chorus girls after the shows at night. It was just...
What they bring them to buy?
Huh?
Why would they bring them to your kind of store?
See, we sold very exclusive merchandise, but they were not first quality.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call them seconds, but they were very slightly damaged where the exclusive stores couldn't sell it. So my boss bought, the second, and people, went from mouth to mouth. And that's how we got these different customers.
I see.
We sold beautiful things. I think I still have some, or I gave Estelle some nightgowns and things that I had all these years.
I'm sure you still have them.
I still have a slip, I think, and I have a pair of pajamas.
How long did you work there?
5 years till I was married.
Uh-huh. So how did Abby meet you? How did that happen?
That's if I slept the cane.
It's okay, I've got time.
My father bought umbrellas from him.
When he was peddling, okay.
When
Yeah.
and just happened he brought the order up to the house. And I happened to be in the house. I had a date to go out, not with a girlfriend who also lived in the same building. And I was all dressed up, I always like to dress nice, not sloppy, gaudy, respectable. And when he saw me, he says, "Oh, I didn't know Miss Rich gives out such a quality."
I could hear him saying.
I don't know what he meant, I looked at him like he was great because he looked sloppy, he never dressed
Yeah, he didn't.
with all pants, and he came from the factory. And that was the end of it, The next day, it comes up, when I was in the store, he visits my mother. He says, "I want to marry your daughter."
This was a day after that he had met you?
Yeah,
Really?
he didn't say anything to me. I come home for lunch because I was around the corner. He says, a room, they called him a room, was here, and he says he wants to marry you. I says, "Mom, what, is he crazy?" I says, "I don't know him. And if he wants to marry me, why doesn't he ask me?" And
America,
believe me, I had no
after all.
intentions of getting married. I was young, I was 19, 20.
19's not so young.
Yeah, well, I considered myself young because I loved the work that I did. I really did. I enjoyed it so much. I worked it like it was my own place.
Yeah.
And that's the way they treated me. They put all the responsibilities on me with everything. They used to go to the country on vacation, and I had to keep track of the money and make the deposits. And but I loved it.
Didn't at one point they wanted to adopt you or something?
Yeah, they did. They wanted to adopt me because they had no children. They saw the way I was concerned about everything.
Did you go out with anybody else before Uncle
Oh,
Eddie?
sure. What do you think?
Because somebody told me once, you should excuse me, but that you were in love with somebody else before.
I was not in love. I went out. I was not in love.
Was there any special person?
No, we were a nice group of friends. We used to go out, but nothing special. I don't think anybody ever married the people that they went out with.
No?
We were a young group of people.
So
Used
how,
to-
yeah, so
We
how
used to go to Coney Island, to Prospect Park, we used to walk it, to Central Park from the east side. We used to walk.
Really?
Yeah,
Amazing.
Prospect Park, we used to walk through Williamsburg Bridge.
So how'd you decide to marry him? What happened with
I don't know what happened. He hung out, he hung around the store.
him?
Instead of being in a factory, he used to walk back outside. He used to walk back and forth. He brought a mason, and, in the bank, I used to take care of the bank, the deposits. And he went in, he also was a deposit in the same bank. And he went in and asked the manager, I remember his name was Mr. Marmor. Mr. Marmor knew me well. And he went in to ask him if he knows me. If Mr. Marmor knew me. He says, oh, this young lady, of course. She's such a wonderful, he praised me to the sky. He didn't know that he was interested. I don't know what he said to him. But that's how it happened, little by little, he wormed himself in.
That's so funny.
We only knew each other for 7, 8 months,
Yeah.
9 months, that's all.
Did you go out at all?
Well, he used to take me to a movie sometimes. He was always busy. He didn't believe in, he didn't know. It's
He
not
didn't have a
that
lot
he
of social
didn't.
graces.
He didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know, because he was working all the time. He was a workaholic, what they call.
Was he a wealthy man at that point or not?
No,
No.
he wasn't wealthy. He had a business,
Yeah.
but he was not a millionaire. That isn't the reason we got married.
Yeah.
Because I had plenty of chances, if I wanted to get married.
So why did you get
with other
married?
people.
Yeah, why did you marry him?
I don't know.
Just
Everybody
kinda
kept
wormed his way
talking.
in.
We know him, he's from the family, European people, they have some kind of they have to know the families who you go into.
Right.
I'm the same way now. I like to know who my grandchildren get married to. The families. It's nice.
Yeah.
And if they're strangers, you don't know. I'm not saying they're not nice people, but you always feel closer when you, what shall I say, we get attached to somebody that is, familiar and the same level, and
So
That's
so your family encouraged you a lot.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
Hmm.
I really don't think there was too much encouragement.
No.
But he himself,
He was tough.
He was
though.
kind of persistent.
Yeah.
yeah, he was
He was like
persistent.
a dog with a bone.
We
when he
couldn't
wanted
get rid of
something.
him.
That's funny that he was walking outside of
He was
the
scared.
store.
And when I came home at night from work, 12 o'clock, it was on the house.
Really?
He was
Yeah.
sitting in the house, or
Sitting
he
in
was
the
out
house,
talking to your parents?
talking to my parents.
He was an option. He was an
Well, you should know.
What's an
We're in
option?
the same,
option. No.
no, you're not much. You're not much.
What's an auction? He's asking what an auction is.
Stubborn.
Stuff.
Is that Yiddish auction?
Yeah.
I thought it was an English word, then I looked.
No. Action
Action.
is stubborn. Somebody is very like your father. His father is just like his grandfather.
think-
Yeah.
Abe was, when he said the sun is shining, and it was at night, the sun wasn't shining and the sun shining, and it was dark. So,
Now tell me about, when did you finally meet Clara and Terezel? Before you got married or after?
before.
Yeah.
I don't want to stop, please. I don't want to talk about Therese.
Why?
Because let her rest in peace.
She'll rest
Look,
in
I'm
peace.
getting hungry. Don't you want to eat something first?
You want to take a break and then we'll come back? I'll tell
Is she going to have that on too?
No.
No.
No?
Can I tell you something? This is not going on TV. This is not for public consumption. That's what's making me crazy.
I hope not.
So then why aren't you behaving yourself?
I'm behaving myself? I don't believe this. I don't. What do you want me to do?
Anyway, let me finish the story. So we were at Yeti's house. He poured the tea into a bowl and he drank it. So Yeti's mother-in-law was there, and Allah Shalom, she used to have a mouth like a toilet. She was a very bitter and acerbic woman. Do you remember her, Mrs. B? Yeah. So she made some nasty remarks. She used to jab at Yeti all the time with these nasty remarks. And she made some remark about Uncle Abe, that we come from such a primitive family they don't even know to drink from cups. So for some reason, I was 9 years old and I had just had it. I was raised to be so respectful of adults. And something in me just snapped and I said, you don't have the nerve to talk about my family like that. You're not fit to drink the liquid from his toes.
In Europe, you either drank from the glass, you didn't drink from a cup,
Right,
or you poured it into the saucer.
Right.
That's the way you drink.
right. Yeah, it's just a different place. Yeah, I remember that.
There was nobody ate the cake.
So when
Oh,
did you
sure.
meet Chayrezel?
I met Chayrezel
Yeah.
in Providence. No, did she live in Providence?
What are you talking? In Providence? Did you meet her before you were married?
Of course.
Wait a minute.
No, she lived in New York. That's
She
right.
lives in New York, right?
Yeah, she came up to my mother's house because I told her she didn't want me to marry your uncle. And I
'Cause you
think
were-
that's the reason why I married him.
She didn't want you to marry because you weren't wealthy enough?
Because he was, they tried, I don't know, somebody tried to match him up with a rich girl.
And that's the
I
marriage.
told you. And she was against me because I wasn't a rich girl.
She must have been very intimidated by your elegance.
I don't know
Our
what,
family, whatever we think is wonderful about them, we're not an elegant crew.
I don't know what she was imitated with. She wasn't, I don't
Intimidated.
know. She didn't care. Because she came up, my mother was very sick, I remember. And she went up to the house. I wasn't there, I was in the store. And she went up and she sat next to my mother's bed. And I don't know, there must have been a night table there or something. And she was banging on the table. She says, I don't want your daughter to marry my brother. And
Who
she-
was the mother in that family? Was it my grandmother or Clara?
No, the mother?
Yeah.
Your grandmother.
My grandmother.
Because she was the oldest.
Yeah. What happened with Reb Meir, now from that side of the family? He got, Reb Meir, his wife died, Reb Meir's wife died.
Yeah.
And then he married
After 4 weeks, after Shloshim, he married Chafeg.
4 weeks?
Because Chafeg was divorced.
How old were the kids at that point?
Very young.
Yeah. So he was left with 4 young
I
children.
think
that's-
your grandmother was the oldest.
And Chafeg had never had children.
Abby was about a year old.
Oh. So
Chafeg, she was married 12 years. And she didn't have any children.
Yeah.
And in the Jewish religion, it's permissible to divorce. I don't have to tell you,
Yeah.
you know. And so after 12 years, she was divorced.
she wanted a divorce or he wanted a divorce? You don't have to get
I
a
don't
divorce.
know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay.
I didn't know of them in this rich. But that's the story that I heard.
So he married Chafeg and she bore a daughter and she was also very cruel to the children.
Because she had her own child now.
What did she used to do? Everybody talks Chafeg.
I figure, I don't know. I didn't know from this rich. I didn't know.
No, I mean, what did she used to do to the kids?
She would deprive them of food. She would hide, she would go out and buy like an onion roll or something. She would hide it from the kids. She would give her a child everything that she was capable of acquiring.
Uh-huh.
But I don't know whether she was cruel to them in any other way or that I don't know. I didn't know them from Miss Rich.
Yeah,
I
you didn't know.
didn't know.
Well, how big was Miss Rich?
Miss Rich, they say there was our community. We were talking about the Jewish community because most of the Jews lived in Miss Rich. The Gentiles lived on the outskirts. They say we had about 18,000. So I don't know
Mm-hmm.
whether it was so or not. I couldn't say.
So who was the first from that side of the family to come to America?
First one was your cousin, Sylvia and Seymour,
Sylvia and
their
Sylvia.
father.
Oh, I
Harry,
see.
his name was Harry
Harry.
Finkelstein. Harry Finkelstein was here a while. Then he came back to Miss Rich. He wanted to marry my mother.
You kidding?
I'm kidding. So I'm kidding.
Harry Finkelstein wanted to marry your
Yeah.
mother?
I'm telling. My mother was a beautiful.
Yeah, she was beautiful.
Everybody wanted to marry my mother. You know, Eva's father, Harry Finkelstein.
Right.
I don't mean Eva's father. Linda's father.
Right.
Grandfather. He wanted to marry my mother.
You're kidding.
Mr. Cannon. Did you know him?
No.
Because my mother and her sister, they called them the two flowers in Miss Rich because they were so beautiful.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. To me, she was my mother. I don't.
Yeah.
But that's what everybody used to say. They were the two flowers. When they walked together, everybody turned their heads.
Huh.
I know my mother. But I know,
Yeah.
when I got to understand, she was really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Estelle looks more like her.
Yeah, Estelle's beautiful. I mean,
Well-
when you look at Estelle today, you cannot believe that she's a grandmother. She looks like she's in her 30s.
Yeah, she does.
It's the most
Well, she
astonishing. Her
keeps
skin is
herself-
astonishing.
Well,
Your
we
skin
don't-
is also
I'll say,
astonishing.
we don't age old in our
Yeah.
family.
That's your side of the
I'm
family.
79 years old. If I live till September, I'll be 80. So, but
Most normal people would say, in September, I'll be 80.
well,
You know what I
no,
mean?
Grandma has her own
no.
philosophy.
People are afraid. They're afraid to live and they're afraid to die. I'm not afraid of either. You know, I'm here today. I don't know where I'll be tomorrow. So today, you make the best of your life.
Okay, Harry. Go back to Harry. So Harry was the first to come. He came back to Ms. Rich
He
to
came
marry.
back to Miss Rich, and my mother refused to marry him. So he went back, and he took Uncle Harry with him.
Well, if you said that you didn't know the Finkelsteins
Just-
when you were...
I didn't know. My mother knew
Your
them.
mother knew.
I didn't know. My mother wasn't married yet. She was still single.
Yeah, but did you know that this was going on between her
No, I didn't know. He didn't talk about it. And so he brought back his cousin, Uncle Harry, Linda's father.
Right.
But he had to change his name because his name was also Harry Finkelstein. So he came with under an assumed name.
Uncle Harry,
Yeah.
Linda's father, came under an assumed name?
Because he had the same name as Harry who brought him over, who took him with him.
So what name did he take?
I don't know, what the Weissman or something like that. I don't know. But I know, look,
This is so weird.
I heard the story. I don't know how true. I'm sure it's true
Yeah.
because they both had the same name. They were first cousins. They were both Harry
They
Finkelstein.
both must have been named for the same person.
So they had it changed because they figured how can they have
Two
both the
names.
same name? They're not twins or they're not,
Right.
But so Harry had to change his name. I don't know to what. Maybe
Okay.
Linda knows. I don't know.
So Harry wasn't the oldest though. Why was Harry brought over?
Because he was a young boy.
Okay.
Your grandmother was the oldest.
Okay.
Don't you understand?
Why did Harry Finkelstein bring over Uncle Harry?
Because at that time families were together. Each one was concerned with one another.
Right, but why Uncle Harry instead of Uncle Avy, for example?
Abe was younger than Harry.
I see. Okay.
I
How old do you think Harry was at the time?
He was young. Don't ask me these details.
Okay,
I
all
do
right.
not know.
Okay.
But I know you asked me, that's the story that
Right.
I heard. Harry brought over Harry,
Right.
okay? Your Uncle Harry, what did he bring over after Clara, I think?
Uh-huh.
After Clara, I don't know whether Clara came before or Abe came before. I'm not
Mhm.
sure. And either one of them, whoever came first, I don't remember. Either Clara or Abe. I don't know. And then after these two were over, they brought over your grandfather, great-grandfather.
Oh, I see. And Jaireza was still in...
Basil and Eva were in this rich. They didn't bring them over together.
I see.
Then they brought over your Hazel and
my
her
grandmother.
family.
Okay, my grandmother.
Okay.
So wait a minute, my grandmother was married to my grandfather in Europe, and they had already, oh yeah, of course,
They had two
Libby,
children.
and they
They
had my mother.
Lucy
yeah.
and Libby.
So they brought over that family.
Yeah, and
I see.
after that they brought over Hazel.
Right.
And after that, Eva was the last one to
Was
go
he,
out.
was Zavel born already?
So,
No?
I wasn't married yet.
Yes, he didn't know. How many years did it take to bring everybody over?
That I don't know.
So when did you find, so Charezel came and nudged your grandmother, I mean your mother about that?
Yeah, so,
And what'd your mother say?
what did my mother say? I wasn't there. I suppose she told her, it's not up to her.
Yeah.
But I don't know what she said to her.
Mhm. Did Clara feel the same way?
In a way,
Yeah. Who gave you the rougher time, Clara or Charezel?
oh, your grandmother.
My grandmother? She was tough as nails, my grandmother. But not to her
She
grandchildren.
wasn't tough, she didn't know any better. Then she changed, then she became very mild. Such a change that's unbelievable.
What made the change? She gave you a very hard time when you were first married, right?
So what?
Because she resented you?
Yeah, well, she had
No,
no
but
other reason.
Yeah, but you'd think that would have died down after the marriage was done.
No, it
No.
didn't. Because, she worked for your uncle. She worked with Abe all the years.
I didn't know she was.
Yeah.
Sure.
This
She
is good.
she worked in the factory.
But tell me about what happened when you used to work in a factory and she used to come in.
Yeah, she used to come in and call me name. Oh, look, let her rest
She
in
called
peace.
you names in front of other people?
Oh, and
After you were married?
Oh, sure. We were both in the factory.
So what'd you do?
She thought I took over her job. I took over her responsibilities, which I didn't.
What were you doing in the factory?
Which I was doing everything. The call lady, the bookkeeper, the cleaning lady.
Did you get paid?
Never.
You never got paid?
Never got paid.
Did you feel like that was not right?
What I felt and what happened, after all, that's the reason I left my job, because he needed me in the plays.
He asked you to come
Oh,
to the place.
definitely. I would never leave the job that I had.
Mm-hmm.
But he needed me, he went into business, and he didn't have anybody to take care of things. And so I went in, I took care of everything, whatever I had to.
And Charezel felt like he was stepping into her
That's
toes.
sure, I was competing with, but I wasn't.
You didn't, yeah, that's not what you meant.
I didn't bother. She did her job, I did my job.
So she used to yell at you?
What she did, please, I don't want to talk about it.
You should talk about it. I mean,
What's
you
it
said-
about?
Bobby,
Told me the story a couple
I
weeks
don't want
ago.
to talk, please.
Well, tell me about the bed relation story, because that's a great story.
What's there to...
It's a family classic, that story.
Well, that's from Clara, not from your...
You're kidding. I thought it was my grandmother.
Oh,
I
no,
thought-
no, no, no.
Oh, I never realized that. I attributed it
No,
always to my
no,
grandma.
no, that was from...
So
she-
what happened with Clara?
I don't know, something came up and she says, you're only a bed relation. You're not a blood relation.
What?
My husband's sister. And I never,
No,
That's-
but what came up that you
I
said
don't
that you don't
remember.
remember?
I really don't.
Yeah.
But I never had any harsh words with the family because I respected my husband. And her grandmother felt that she was his mother.
Yeah.
And I felt no matter how the mother is, I'm going to respect her.
Why did A.B. have such an aura? When I was growing up, my mother spoke about A.B. as if he were the wisest man and like I can't even tell you. I mean, it was really an aura.
Because he was good-natured.
He was good-natured? I never
Well,
saw-
to them,
to them.
you know. He was good-natured. I don't know, look, if you want to make look, everything is up to people.
Mhm.
You can build up a person, you can build them down. That's the way they felt. He was the youngest one.
Mhm. But they used to come to him for advice, right? When there was a family issue, they would come into New
Yeah,
Jersey
they
on the
would come
train.
here. Only Clara.
My grandmother didn't
Your
come. My mother
grandmother?
used to come when I
Yeah.
was a child. I remember my mother used to. I mean, he'd sit here and she would sit here, and they'd talk for hours and hours, and I would wander around trying not to touch anything or knock any of the china
I
over.
don't remember that.
I remember.
really, Clara used to come often.
Yeah.
Because she had problems with the kids, with Ralph, you know. So she thought Abe would advise her. But he didn't know. But he always told her she was wrong, anyway.
I know, it was amazing to me. She
Yeah.
was the only.
Because
he
she was wrong.
She was wrong?
Of course she was, definitely.
But she didn't take that from anybody else but him.
Yeah.
Nobody in the family could tell her she was wrong.
But then they would argue about it.
She
you
was
know.
very
I never
opinionated.
interfered. When they went in the room and closed the door, it wasn't my business what they were doing there.
Yeah.
That was between them.
Hmm.
No, really, with a family you can't, because it takes three to make trouble. When two argue and a third person butts in, then you have a problem. But when two people fight, they'll fight it out.
Mm-hmm.
I never interfered, never.
Did you resent when they came to meet with him?
Oh, no,
No?
of course not. They used to come, Clara, for weekends with the kids.
Where
Never-
they sleep?
Never told me, never asked me. They
You mean they just show up at the door?
That's right. They would just show off.
You're joking. She and 4 children would show up at
That's
the doorstep?
right, yeah. What do you mean where they were sleeping?
Where they
I had a couch that opened up here, where I have my 2 chairs,
Yeah.
and then this couch was slept on.
I
This
don't even,
couch is 50 years
What
old.
about in that back room?
that was
Huh?
never
No, I
used.
never used that
Never
bed.
use it?
No, that was
That's
always
my storage
I don't know
And
why.
then it was the summertime, they slept on the floor.
Yeah,
Young kids.
yeah.
Look,
You used to send Leonard to Rhode Island for the summer.
I didn't send him. He liked Sonny, and he wanted to go there. I didn't send him. I wanted to send him to camp, but he never
I see.
wanted to go.
Did you mind when you used to go to Providence?
No,
No.
that's one thing. I always tried to keep the family close.
Yeah.
Never said anything, why do you have to go there, you know, this, never.
Mhm.
You should never cause friction among family, especially among the young people. Yeah, go
No, I
ahead.
can agree with
What
that.
did I do to you?
No, you didn't do anything to me. I'm just here to
But
back
who,
up your
who,
statement.
who did I do to
No,
you?
you didn't. I'm just saying.
No,
from my own
because the
experience.
way your reaction, like I did something.
No, because I agree with you, because my experience growing up was a lot different than that.
Well, no, I believe families should be close, they should be concerned about one another, they should be helpful
Mhm.
if they can, not talk about each other, this one did wrong, this one did right, it's nobody's
That's all the
business.
family did, was
It's
talk.
all the family.
That's all they did. They were in each other's business all day and all night.
Who?
Everybody in this family. Oh, please. You're gonna tell me that's not true?
Who?
Every time there was a family issue, everybody talked about it endlessly, no matter who
With
was
whom?
involved. With everybody. Clara talked to Theresa,
Clara-
Theresa talked to...
No, with Hazel she didn't have too much because she didn't think Hazel was smart enough.
Is that true? Was Theresa
Oh, yeah.
Was she smart or not? Theresa?
She wasn't smart and she wasn't dumb, she was a person. What can I tell you?
What was this woman like? I mean, what did she look like?
She resembled more like Poppy.
Was she tall, short?
Sure.
No, she was not tall, you know, about 5'2" or so.
Yeah, they were all short.
They were all, none of them were tall.
Somebody once said my grandmother used to fight, so we used to mop the floors with my grandfather.
That's another story.
She had a terrible temper, right? She did? It's a legacy.
Look,
And my
With
mother had a
me-
terrible temper.
with me, I didn't give them the opportunity
Really?
to have a temper with me because if they started in, I took a walk.
But what happened that time when you were in the factory and she came in?
Oh, well, I never said anything to her.
She was screaming at you and what
She was,
happened?
she was, and your cousin Harry was there at the time.
Really? He heard this?
Oh, of course, she wasn't ashamed. And then I figured, you know, Abe was there and he was looking at me and he thought I was going to talk back to her and I knew that I was not.
You
know,
never were in danger
I
of losing?
prayed to God, I said, please God, give me the strength to keep my mouth shut. And he did. Whenever I'm in trouble, God is my helper.
So she finished screaming at you
She
and
finished screaming, she was cursing my family, everybody.
You kidding?
And nobody ever did anything to her. They never were in contact with her. And then she was so angry because I didn't talk back to her that when she went out, there was a glass door like my door. She slammed the door so hard that all the windows broke.
Oh my God.
And since then, she never came into place again.
She never
She
came?
took out work, you know, for the house, but she didn't come into the place. I think Abe must have told her not to come in.
So he stuck up for you in his own way?
He didn't tell me that he stuck up for me. I didn't ask him to.
Yeah.
I never said, don't let her come in, or that it wasn't my business. You know, it was his mother, and he had to do what he thought was the right thing.
Did he think of her as his mother?
In a way, I think that he did.
Yeah.
He's the only one, because he was the baby. He was a year old when his mother died.
They were all pitiful, though, when you think about it.
Did he talk to you about things like that? How he felt about
Never.
it?
Never.
So how did you?
Never. You can never have a discussion.
Well, how did you like understand what his relationship was with other people, or how? Or
Well,
just by seeing, or?
With what people?
No, with
Strangers?
with
Or
the sister,
family?
with the family, or?
He had good relations with them.
No, but I mean, how did you understand?
How'd you understand
that?
he was like, he treated her
Because
like his brother?
you know, through,
You watched it.
you know, through actions.
Mhm.
You know, because whenever they had any problem, Clara, she'd call him up, come out, he would run. He wouldn't say anything.
Mhm.
No matter what time, or Shabbos, or he would be right there. He wouldn't tell me or ask me. He would just, anytime he thought that he was needed, he was there.
Mhm.
And did he ever come to you when he had problems, or?
Who?
My grandma, Abe.
You
Your
had
husband?
problem?
Yeah.
With me, you never had problem.
No,
No.
never had problems.
But if something was on his mind, would he talk with you about it, or would he talk with his sisters?
No, he talked with his sister.
See, that's a very strong pattern in our family, that you're close with the siblings and
No,
not with
he
the
didn't.
spouse.
I don't know. I guess he didn't come in contact. He wasn't brought up in that.
Yeah.
So there was no connection like.
Yeah.
And if you want to start a conversation with him, he would. He had no patience to listen.
Right.
And did you have any friends within his family, or somebody that you could turn to? I don't know.
His
Were
family.
you close with anybody in his family?
I was close with all of
With
them.
all of them. But,
Everyone, each and every one of them. The only one that really, her grandfather should rest in peace, they thought I was God's son, and Uncle Ralph.
Yeah.
And they used to tell their wives, "Was will Stephanie? Was will Stephanie?
What do you want from her? Leave her
What do you
alone."
want from her? What do you want from her? She's not doing anything."
Because they'd started.
The only two, and the real.
Why did they forgive you? Why did Chaim Hazel forgive you? What was it that made the anger lessen?
I guess as she grew older, I guess she became more mature. I don't know.
How did you find out she was dying from cancer?
wait, before we
sorry.
get that, how weren't you sick one time?
Are you going to write a book too?
No, I'm just trying
No,
to
that's
draw.
okay.
Well, maybe someday.
He is
Yeah.
going to write a book.
All right.
But
Will that make you proud or not?
Why not?
Oh.
As long as my grandchildren do good things in this world, I'm proud of them. I'm proud of them regardless. As long as they're nice people. You know, they
Yeah.
say it's important to be,
Say it in Yiddish.
no, wait a minute. What is the word? It's important to be nice. But I forgot to say. It's nice to be important, but it's also important to be nice.
Mhm.
It's more important to be nice.
Right.
So as long as my grandchildren are nice, I have no problem with them.
okay.
You're a great grandson.
No, really.
You do.
Yesterday I went to the funeral. My grandson, he doesn't know what to do. If he can carry me, Stephanie's husband.
Yeah.
I says, "Robert, please leave me alone. Don't bother me." My granddaughter's married to, her husband. He doesn't know what to do for him.
Yeah. Right.
He's not the blood relation, through marriage is my grandson. He just, I don't know, I don't do anything for them. And I tell him, I have to tell him something, but in a nice way, not in a nasty way or, And he thinks, Grandma. I says, please, stop it.
Now, what were you going to ask?
Oh, there was one time when, you had, your relationship with Hazel wasn't that good, but then there was one time that you got sick and she came down.
Oh, no, that wasn't it. No. I don't know what made her turn around. I really don't.
Something must have, because she wasn't a woman to forgive lightly.
Something, I don't know. I was always trying to talk to her, but she would never respond.
Mm-hmm.
So, there comes a time when people change. You can't change people. They have to change themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
Well, what happened?
I don't remember.
You told me the other day
What?
that one day she came down.
Were you sick?
Well, I don't know if it was sick, but one day she came in
that
and she
was
was.
already when
But she cried to you or something like that.
I don't know, not because she changed her ways before.
But didn't she ask you to
But what was
forgive
this
her? Or?
No, she never asked. Oh no, and Clara.
And-
You're mixing up the
I'm
two
mixing up
things
the two
together.
things.
What happened? All right, so tell
No.
both stories.
No, when then Clara was sick already, you know. She used to come here, Abe used to take her to the cancer specialist in New York.
Mm-hmm.
But when she knew she was dying, and I guess she felt guilty the way she used to treat me, she was on the bed here, you know, in this bedroom. And I think that was the last time she visited here. And then she cried and she says, you know, I hate to say that. She said, you know, I didn't know how wise you are. And please forgive me for the way I treated you. There's nothing to forgive. You treated me the way you thought I should have been treated. That was the last time.
Really? The last time she came here. Had you forgiven her?
I never had a grudge against them.
You didn't? Even when they were treating you
Even
badly?
no.
Because they did exclude you.
They did because, honey, see, you have to understand people. If you don't expect, you know, they did it because out of their concern for their brother. You know, it was instilled in them since babyhood, you can say. And I was nobody to them.
Yeah.
Like Clara said, you're only a bed relation.
Yeah.
So why should, I don't know, I don't get angry with people. There's no reason for it. Everybody thinks the way they want to think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in time they come around, they change their ways.
Yeah.
But you cannot change anybody's feelings or anybody's thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the same way as you cannot change me. I am what I am. I always say to people, I am what I am. You accept me for what I am or else walk away from me. You don't owe me anything. And I do that way all my life, with my family, with my friends. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to speak up.
That's true.
If they don't like what they don't like about me, why should they tolerate me? There's no reason for it.
Yeah.
You walk away.
Now tell me about Letty and Estelle. Well, tell me about Estelle's leg.
What is there to tell?
Well, how did you, in other words, you had brought her to a doctor. You thought something was not right. What happened with that?
When she was 4 months old.
She was that young? She wasn't even crawling yet?
No, she was 4 months. That was in July.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. And my mother came, and my father was here. I lived there on South Broad Street. And I put her on the bed, you know, on the stomach.
Yeah.
You know, you try to exercise their legs and, you know, their
Oh, I
body.
remember that.
Huh?
I'd forgotten that. My mother used to do that. There was a whole theory of child rearing then where you had to exercise an infant's
Yeah, well, you
arms
do
and
it
legs.
now too. You
No,
exercise.
nobody
No,
does this
come
anymore.
on.
I don't
You know,
think it
and
was.
then it flashed through my mind, one of her legs was shorter, my daughter. And next door to me, in the same apartment house, we had a doctor, we were a friend of the family too. And I was waiting for him and watching when he came back from his calls. And I didn't need an appointment, I just took her and I walked in. I said, Dr. Gomark, I think Estelle has a short leg.
Were you nervous at this point, or you just?
Well, I didn't know yet, but
Yeah.
the way I
Something was-
saw it, that there was something was wrong, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So he takes her, he puts her on the table, he examines her, he takes a tape measure and he measures, and they both measure the same length. And he knew I was a nervous person, I always worried for no reason at all. He says, come on, he says, you're crazy. That, honest to God. He says, stop worrying, there's nothing wrong, you're looking for trouble. But my mind didn't rest anymore. I took her to another doctor, It said the same thing, there's nothing wrong. I took her to a third one, there's nothing wrong.
You really took
We
it to
took,
the
oh sure, I remember the doctor, Dr. Goldmacher, Dr. Goldfield, Dr. Crabtree. And then I took her to Dr. Weigel, he took the x-rays, and nothing showed on the x-rays. It wasn't her leg, her hip joint was out of place.
Was that painful for her?
No, she never cried, she was good. I don't know whether she was born that way or whether it was pulled out by delivery, I don't know. Doctors aren't going to tell you. I think it was by delivery because my doctor was on his honeymoon and we had another doctor taken over and he had delivery one after the other. So the x-ray didn't show anything. But who am I going to bother? I bothered my friend, Dr. Goldmacher. I said, there's definitely something wrong. I don't care what the x-rays show. I don't care what the other doctors say. Where can I go to New York? To a special, you know, it's an orthopedic place. He says, go to New York. I don't know what they call it, ruptured and crippled hospital or something. No, it was special. And I come in there and the old gentleman comes out. He must have been about 65 or so. And he takes the baby and he puts her on the table. He doesn't examine nothing. He puts her on and he tries to open her legs this way. One leg went all the way out, the other was stuck. He dislocated hip. He says, your daughter, your baby does not have a short leg, but she has a dislocated hip. And he wouldn't let me take her home. Because they had, that time they had visitors from different countries. So all bunch of doctors came in to, you know, he lectured about her because it's very unusual that you can notice these things with a 4-month-old child. The only time the doctors told me, when she'll start walking, we'll see what's wrong with her. I says, no, I'm not waiting till she starts walking. I want to know now if there's something wrong. And this doctor, he wasn't a Jewish doctor, but he was so nice. He, you know, when he told me that, you know, I broke down. And he was so nice. He put his arm around me and he said, who sent you here? And I told him the story about the other doctors and everything, and I told him, each and everyone told me I was crazy. So he put his arm around me and he says, you go back and tell your doctors that you are very sane and that you are a very lucky mother because we cannot detect this at that age. He wouldn't let me take her home.
You put her in the hospital then?
He wanted to take and put her in the hospital, but I wasn't going to schlep to New York, you know, every day. I asked him, I said, is it an emergency? He said, no, but Pastor, you have it set. She doesn't need surgery, but they set it and they put her in a cast.
4 months old.
So I said, please let me decide. Then we had a very good friend here, and he knew Dr. Kessler. He was one of the best in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
They used to call him for consultations to Europe to royalty. In fact, a couple of years ago, they opened the Kessler Institute. They named it after him.
Really?
And I brought the baby to him, and as soon as he saw her, he let me take her home. Same story, but there I left already. Because I wasn't going to go, if he's the best, and if he tells me, and I had one opinion from somebody else, I'm not going to fight them. So we left her there, and of course she was said she was in a cast from the chest down all the way down. She was in the hospital 14 months.
14 months? I didn't know this about it.
Oh, sure.
And you went there every day?
Dr. Kessler left orders. You know, you have visiting. They left orders to the supervisor there. He says, leave the door open. Whenever this lady comes, she's permitted to go in. I was there day and night.
How old was Leonard at the time?
Leonard is 3.5 years different.
So he
He's
was,
almost 4.
And what'd you do with him while you were?
Well, during the day, I used to take him with me. And he would sit in the lobby there
For hours?
and play, yeah. And Abe was with him, you know. But,
What a nightmare. What did she do all the, what did the baby do, what did Estelle do in a cast all day long?
well, what?
What, did she just lay in the crib?
When you have a broken leg, you put in a cast, what do?
You lie there.
So she was like, she was only a baby. She couldn't move.
That's
She
incredible.
was only 4 months old. You know, she couldn't move.
Yeah, but when she got out, she was 18 months old.
She was, I put her in July. And she came out 4 months, 14, yeah, year and a half.
Could she walk when she got out?
She started walking.
She must have learned a lot of stuff when she was in the hospital, all of it from in the hospital.
Well, what she learned, she was a baby. The reason, I could have taken her home,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't handle her. Because the cast was from the chest down, all the way down to both legs.
I see.
It was too heavy, it was impossible. So the doctor suggested that she stays in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then as she grew, you know, they used to change the casts also. She wasn't in the same cast all the time.
Was it painful for her?
I'm sure it was,
Yeah.
because when I saw her, they used to take the cast off. Her skin was, you know, raw and all. You know, you couldn't help it,
Yeah.
because she wasn't a cast,
Yeah.
you know.
It must have been such an ordeal for you.
I almost had a nervous breakdown that time.
Yeah. Terrible.
But with the help of Dr. Kessler, and I figured someday everything will be all right, and thank God that's the way it turned out.
Yeah. Does her hip still hurt her?
Huh?
Does her hip hurt her at all now?
It doesn't hurt her. You see, once she grew up, I used to take her for checkups to Dr. Kessler when she was older, but he's dead now. But she neglects us. I don't think she goes for checkups. She has a very, very slight, when she gets tired,
She's a little-
but otherwise you don't notice it.
What would happen if it wasn't treated?
Then she would limp.
She would live.
What would happen?
Yeah.
When your hip is out of place, so you will go to one side and you limp.
Now tell me about,
Check off the question. No, I bought all these things. You just, they
what stopped? You just bought things you liked, right? You didn't study them, right?
No.
No.
What do I know? I just, when I like something, I buy it. I don't study
No,
it.
but I distinctly remember you telling me that somebody had given you a China plane. That's why you started collecting those
No,
planes.
no.
Or that you, no. Okay.
I started collecting when I was a young kid in New York on Orchard Street.
Do you know what you collected
Yeah,
first?
I have 2 figurines there that I bought on Orchard Street before I was married. I paid $1 a piece.
Really?
The birds?
A man and a lady. No,
No.
it's on my,
You collected a lot of bone, right?
I don't know, I collect everything. Everything that was cheap, and I didn't have to pay too much money for.
Okay, go
Hey,
ahead.
do you have
What
a
do
record player?
Huh?
Do you have a record player in this
Record?
apartment? I was just wondering,
What, a record player?
because she
Sure,
has
I
a
gave
favorite
it to you,
song.
I
No,
gave it to-
no, here, because you have a favorite song, don't you?
Oh, that,
That
I don't know about this. What is this?
the Bluebird of Happiness.
Let's look at it.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
I heard who sang?
Jan
Pierre
Pierre.
sang it. They had an old thing with Jan Pierre.
Where
singing
did you-
it. It was on TV. I should have called you. I didn't think about it.
Don't
It was
call
a
me,
retrospective.
I got the record, I
Yeah.
got the tape,
Yeah.
I made one for you.
Everybody Jewish loved that song.
But it was just the Robert's birthday,
Mhm.
wasn't it? And I heard, on
This Robert?
no,
No.
Robert.
Robert Brenner.
Okay.
There's a Jewish program on Sunday night on, his name is Brenner. I have his card. And I heard him play that song. It was a call in, you know. And every time I heard that song, it just did something to me. Well, while the record was playing and, you know, he didn't talk, I called in. His name is Bernhood, Charlie Bernhood. I said, and I told him, I explained to him what this record does to me, and and where can I get, because it's old, and where can I get, the tape or a record. So he doesn't say anything to me, and he says, I'll take care of it. So I didn't know whether he meant that he was going to let me know where I can get it or what. The following week, on the same program, he's on every week, once a week. He calls, we talk, on the radio. He says, to my Elizabeth listener, Sarah Finkelstein, your record is in the mail. Oh, when I heard that, I didn't believe it. But a few days later, I did receive the tape. It's amazing. I'm so lucky, Then the following week, when I received, I called him up and I thanked him, and I didn't mentor him, and I wanted to pay or give. He says, no, you can't give a donation. He says, when I'll have a drive, if you want to send a donation, fine, but this is my pleasure. After the war, the Ms. Richer went to Ms. Rich.
You mean the Ms. Riches went to? Oh, you
The
mean
survivors
went back to Ms. Rich?
went to Ms. Rich to see if there's anybody left there or whatever they can find. And they found that, of course, there wasn't anybody there. And the Polish people wouldn't allow anybody. They would kill whoever came back. They would kill them. They occupied their homes and everything, Polish people. And so, of course, they went to visit the cemetery, and they found it was all destroyed. The Germans took the headstones, and they paved the streets with it. So when they came back, they wrote. They weren't here. So they wrote to the Ms. Richer Society what they found, and they thought the cemetery should be restored. So Abe donated the money they should restore. There was a committee there, one of my cousins, and some other people there, and they dug up of course they didn't know who it belonged to, but they made the fence from the tombstones.
And how did it land up in the book, that incident?
Excuse me.
I was thinking if, do you think there's a reason for that? Or?
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Should we do this again?
Why do you have to ask me to ask you?
Because she's not taping us, you can relax. Oh, this is good.
Here's about Ms. Rich. No, this is, I was interviewed after I met the authors.
What kind of, this is the book, The Last Jews of Poland. It was a book that came out a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
You found
Yeah.
out by accident that you were in
Yeah.
this book.
Yeah.
Right?
But a married couple named Finkelstein, and they spelled it.
That's right, they spell like a Polish,
Right, right.
not like we spell it now.
Yeah.
So when I first, I didn't know about this, I read in the paper that these people are going to talk about the Jews in Poland.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read the paper, in the newspaper, the ad, I went, Stell took me to, to see what they have to say.
Yeah.
Because I was told they were visiting cemeteries, and so I went there, and I got the book, and then I see it as a story about the Miss Ridge. So I was very interested to see, these are the authors. She's a lawyer and he's a photographer. They live in Washington, young people.
Yeah.
So I introduced myself. I says, I'm the Finkelstein that you have in your book.
Did they remember?
No, they didn't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course they knew,
Yeah.
because it was a new edition at that time when they came here.
Yeah.
So they were so amazed that they would meet somebody that they had included in their book. And she started, introducing me to the audience, She was a big surprise. I felt so embarrassed. Oh, no, he doesn't take care. I take care of him.
Oh, you take care of him?
I
Do
take
you
care.
still send her money?
Oh, sure, just send them, I haven't just got my receipt back. Where is it?
Because you pay to keep the cemetery up.
Oh, yeah. But I tell you, then I was interviewed. Then everybody called me up, Sarah, your name is in the paper.
And you were only 74 at the time.
Yeah.
5 years ago.
So, 5 years. So I said, why am I in the paper? So my next
There it
door,
is.
he's the only Jewish man there left.
Yeah.
Couple times a year.
Yeah.
I only send him $50 because they don't want to send him too much at one time.
Mm-hmm.
His name.
Hmm.
His name is Kagan, but he uses his the Manchik.
Yeah.
That's his name. So that's how I found out about these people.
So did you mind doing this?
Do what?
The videotaping?
Look, I want to get rid of you, and I don't want you to bother me. So I figured, but you didn't include my grandfather.
No, because we're not done.
You're not done?
No. We have to stop now.
Oh, good.
We'd like to do it again.
Now here's the question,
What?
right away. What about the weekend of the bar mitzvah when everybody's in?
What about?
If it came Sunday morning, so people came, would you videotape them?
Here? How
Not
many
the whole
people?
bar mitzvah. Some of your family. My brother. I don't know.
Can't you tape it in your house?
Will you come to my house?
On a Sunday, yeah.
You'll come Sunday
Not on a
morning?
Saturday.
Oh, Sunday morning.
Yeah.
After the bar mitzvah, Sunday morning you'll come?
Yeah, why not? If I have somebody to take me, like
I'll take
Bobby
All right.
or Jeffrey, I always have to depend on my grandchildren. Because I don't drive. Yeah, Sunday I don't, if everything. All. No exceptions.
This is a good place to stop. It's
Huh?
as good a place as any.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I thank you. I didn't call it yet.
And I gotta get going. I'm gonna be late to pick up my son from school.
Why didn't you make arrangements to have him picked up?
Well, I
Where's
fired
Michael?
Michael forget it, his teacher.